and welcome to Big Theater Kid Energy, your least pretentious theater review podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Garcia, and I'm here to talk about a musical that you need to listen to. It is Good Guy with a Gun. It's a newly released, fully produced cast recording of a hilarious, irreverent political musical comedy. And with me, I have one of the creators. He is an actor, a singer-songwriter, a creator of all things. He's lived so many creative lives. Acted in shows like Watchmen, Glow, The OA, wrote for CW's I Ship It, opened for Jason Mraz on tour, and I'm going to say it again, ultimately was held at gunpoint on an LA train. It was all leading to that for my guest, Philip Labus. Philip, hello.
I love that you had a second chance at not saying ultimately was held up on an LA train, and you said, I'll just do it again.
I'm doing it again because it's on the page.
Yes.
And
you're an actor's actor.
I'm not an improviser.
Yeah.
I
said,
am an actor. If it's on the page,
if it's on the page,
said.
you're like Will Ferrell Anchorman. You're gonna say what's on that page.
It's on the page, it's on the stage.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me.
Philip, this is a crazy fever dream where we are now repeating all of this. And I want you to now tell us, what is Good Guy with a Gun?
Good Guy with a Gun is a musical concept album of a musical called Good Guy with a Gun, where you get the entire story in the tracks. It's a 36-track music and dialogue experience that is a musical comedy about a conservative dad and his liberal daughter. Tonally, it's a bit like Book of Mormon, but for the NRA. And it stars a collection of Broadway, TV, and film actors and actresses who are absolute stars and deliver stunning vocal performances. And it all comes together to be this like great Broadway level experience that you can have without buying a Broadway ticket.
Incredible. I will tell you that when I started listening to it, I thought, I'll listen to a song and maybe just like see what I think about it. I couldn't stop listening to it.
Yeah.
I listened to the entire thing top to bottom. And it was so, for being something that I could only listen to, it was such a visual experience. Like an all-encompassing experience to listen to Good Guy with a Gun.
That's great.
And I was just cracking up by myself cleaning my house.
Heck yeah.
While I was listening to it.
Yeah, I encourage people to clean your house, water your plants, go on a road trip, or do it like they did in the 70s and lie back, take a single tab of acid, and lie on your deep plush rug and enjoy the entire experience.
It's also one that I'd be like it's actually one that I'd have like a friend group over to listen to an album, like an album listen party.
Oh gosh, we would love that.
That would be so fun.
I would love that. That'd be a delight. And then you get to have the experience of group laughter, which is a totally different vibe. I would love if people did that. Yeah, I think it's great for like a group car ride or something like that.
Yeah. So what was the idea with having Jason Alexander as God?
What was the idea? We when we started thinking about who would be such a funny, great get for the character of God, we were like, well, it should be someone who's sort of a comedy legend, somebody who has this sort of authority as a character in real life, that their voice connotates a certain amount of authority and power. And Jason's so funny, he's so brilliant, and yeah, we were super honored that he played God in our show.
I mean, I was so blown away by your entire cast.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, like from Kimiko Glenn, Chris Sullivan, Anthony Rapp, Yvette Nicole Brown, Rebecca Naomi Jones, Richard Kind. Also, Richard Kind, like at his best in this. Like he is so Richard Kind in this.
Yes, Richard came and you know, you have certain actors have such an iconic voice that you can really hear their voice already when you write the lines. And so it was such a blast to hear him come in and sort of deliver exactly what we had hoped he would bring to the table. Yeah, he was so funny and so game. There was one memorable moment when we finished like a first take, and you never know how comfortable the actor is going to be with trying a lot of different things. Some actors really like to do it one way and kind of move on. Other actors love to be coachable. And yeah, Richard finished a couple takes, and we were like, Richard, do you mind if we try a few more? And he was like, oh, I could do 10 more. I love to sing. I love to sing. And we were like, heck yeah, thank you, Richard.
That is so cool.
I love it.
He has such incredible comedic turns.
Yes.
Like when he talks about all the things, he's like, my political opponent, embezzlement, all of these things. They have all of it on me. They have proof that I did it.
Yes.
It's so funny.
Yes.
It's also the comedic turn that I love, which is there is no turn.
Yes.
It's just we drive even further toward it.
Yes.
And you had that throughout the whole cast. I also have some friends on the cast.
Yes.
Gabe Greenspan, Laura Shine, Vic Michaelis, who I've worked with, and also one of my favorite, Gwen Hollander. I just went and saw her in Shrek the Musical, and
Oh yes.
she had this moment. Isn't you can't even tell it's her. So like, there's like, she doesn't even get her flowers for it, but it's her as like, when Shrek gets to the castle and that person in the full Farquaad outfit like sees him and then goes and runs and hits a wall. She does that, and then for maybe a good 90 seconds does the Family Guy as she's exiting the stage
Oh, and it got like huge laughs.
for way too long,
Oh,
Just
what a ham.
overextending the bit.
Yes.
And they ate it up.
Really good for something like Shrek.
Really good for
Yeah.
Star Trek. So like the entire cast is just filled with comedic geniuses, top to bottom.
I agree. And every single one of them brought, including those who are very well-known actors, brought this really wonderful like indie can-do spirit to the project, which was such a blessing. Whether they had a little bit of time to give or more time to give, no one was willing to leave until we had what we needed. And that was really special and so helpful. Even Anthony, we had to do a pickup day because we couldn't get it all in the first day, and he was so gracious with his time. And so we got so lucky with this cast, and it is true what they say, like 90% of directing, and in our case vocal directing, Micah and I as the vocal directors, was casting. And so once we started with everyone, we realized like, wow, they're all just so great in their roles, and like, you can nudge, but ultimately, like, if the actor's a great fit, you don't have to do that much nudging.
And I really do think that speaks to like all of their can-do attitude and willingness does speak to the level of how great the music is, how great the writing is, but also the emotional heft of it, the comedic sensibilities that are in there, how many jokes there are per minute, and also
the JPMs.
And also how important the story is.
Thank you.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's right. And anyone who was willing to do the project sort of de facto had to sign on to a story about this sensitive topic, a story that is a little bit politically charged. And so for many actors, that can be anathema. It can be, something they don't want to touch. We were very lucky that our actors were willing to read the script, see that it wasn't. I think a lot of people, when they hear about the project, A Good Guy with a Gun, they hear the title and the log line, they imagine that it's sort of going to be a shallow swipe at conservatives and that there won't be depth or meaning. And I think once they listen to the project, they'll realize that that's not true, that the album doesn't just poke fun at everyone, poke fun at liberals who can be sanctimonious and exclusionary, poke fun at conservatives who can be more obsessed with dogma than fact. But it also loves both of these groups of people. Like it doesn't aim to create it doesn't aim to have everyone walk out and go, well, we all got ribbed and now we can all go back to hating each other, knowing one more funny bullet in the chamber for our gotcha comment section. It hopes to give new language to how to talk to people that you disagree with, or at least provide, like any piece of fiction does, it is giving an opportunity to see a different way to be, and a philosophy that maybe is more enlightened than we each feel capable of. Like, that's the job of a fiction, is to be like, what if we were all a little bit better?
Yeah. And I also feel more capable to like listen to something or learn from it if it's like, oh, they're taking shots at me, but they're also taking shots at the other side of like, okay, so actually we're all having to self-reflect here. Yeah. And for that reason, like now I feel a little bit more open to like hear both sides and be aware of like my tribalism maybe is short-sighted, or maybe I'm stuck in an echo chamber and there's more to learn here.
Yeah. I think a laugh is a quick way to like unclench.
Totally.
And so the moment after everyone is laughing at the same thing, you have an opportunity for a dialogue or at least to lower the temperature. I do think, it's very hard. We're not aiming to imply that, both sides of the current political moment are equally bad.
Right.
and I don't think anywhere in the show is that implication.
No.
I am 100% positive that there will be some online critique at some point that imagines that that's what we're saying,
Mm-hmm.
because that is a very common response to any sort of attempt to bring people together. But I think something I've been sitting with a lot recently is like, if you want a meaningful, good life and you want growth and you want things to change, sometimes you have to treat people better than they deserve.
I like that a lot. Can you tell me a little bit about how you and Micah work together? Actually, we haven't talked about that. I think that'd be really interesting. So how did you meet Micah?
Micah and I went to school together. We met in our freshman year dorm. Micah and I were the two people in a like first week of freshman year meeting in our dorms on our floor that brought guitars. And so we played guitar for a little while, and we like chatted all day. And I remember we like had this like really fun, it was like first day of college, and we chatted for a little bit. And then as we were saying goodbye, Micah was like, did we just become best friends? And I didn't know that they were quoting I think Elf or a Will Ferrell movie.
It's Step Brothers.
Step Brothers. And so I didn't know they were quoting that, and I thought they were just asking me. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe.
Just fully earnestly.
Yeah, I was like, oh, like, because I didn't know them that well yet. So I was like, oh, yeah, I don't know, maybe. And they were like, oh, it's from Step Brothers. And I was like, oh, great.
And when you guys work together, it is very much...
That's how we met. And when we work together, it's a really great process. I think we complement each other's weaknesses and strengths well. I'm a musical improviser, and I do a lot of making up songs on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes the very first ideations of an idea, not always, but it's not uncommon for us in the past that maybe the very first broad strokes of the idea might be like, well, Michael, what if we tried this? Or this? Like I'm like kind of throwing a lot of paint at the wall really quickly. And Mike, I'm sort of like the gas of the car. And Micah is really great at sort of being like, well, there were like 100 ideas there.
Yeah.
Here are like 6 that I think have juice. And then we have to like rewrite the other 94. And I think that's a great partnership. Extending that metaphor, it's like Micah is the steering wheel. Like I'm pushing the gas, but like I don't always know exactly where we're going. And Micah is sometimes good at being like, oh, what if we tried this direction? What if we tried this direction? And really, really great. Micah's so amazing at like a second, third, fifth, 10th, 100th pass. They're really unrelenting in trying to tighten up story and tighten up jokes.
And you know what's crazy to me is like as a musical improviser, like you're having to think on so many levels at once. Like you're spinning so many plates about the overarching, like what is this story about? Like what is the game of this? What is funny about it? But then also the rhyme structure is also within that. How?
If someone wants to learn musical improv, there are better resources than me in this moment.
Okay, fair enough.
But the short answer is first go take an improv class and just like learn about how to structurally be funny.
Yeah.
And then once you've spent some time thinking about and learning and practicing and doing indie shows of that, then add music on top. I think a lot of times people try to leap into like writing funny songs.
Right.
But I actually think the skill set of doing gamey, repeatable, funny lyrics is something almost built without any music around, because it's more like writing prose or writing stand-up or writing sketches very quickly.
And as you explained to me about how Good Guy with a Gun is like, it's standalone. This does not, it's not necessarily a stepping stone to the next part of the project. This is the project.
Yes.
Is there like, do you have a dream person who listens to this, or as in like, not even like, oh, I hope this producer listens to it.
Yes.
But as a sense of like, gosh, I hope like some parent listens to it, or some like.
When I think about like the dream listener for the project, I often think of like, like high school theater kids.
Yeah.
I feel like no one is more open to and appreciative of new musical work. I remember when I was in high school, I went to a theater high school. You couldn't separate some of these kids from Taylor the Latte Boy. you know,
Mhm.
and like all these like Pasek and Paul indie musical songs, they were like, no one knows about this.
Mhm.
And I loved that. Like it just no one is more of an advocate for a new musical and like who wants to love it and share it.
Mhm.
And so to the extent that, you know, I appreciate those who appreciate us,
Yeah.
like no one is going I just think no one will appreciate this more than like a 17-year-old in Ohio in her musical theater program who is, you know, the big fish in her small pond who's like, I guys, you have to like listen to this album. It's like a whole musical, you know? And that's kind of who we made it for. In
Mhm.
that, I mean, we made it for us. Like I'm very passionate about this story and this
Yeah.
project and this topic. But in terms of trying to make it so good and so undeniable and so exactly as you said, once you start it, you can't stop, tightening every beat of the story and every song and just like making sure you can knock on that hull and there's no springs that pop out. Um, that was who we kind of had in mind.
And you were saying earlier something that I'd love to hear again, and maybe even get more in depth with it so I understand it further. You're saying a great musical eats the book,
Yeah.
or the music eats the book. What does that mean?
So
Because I
this was
kind of get it.
Yeah. So what I was thinking, I read this in a musical theater writer's book that I can't even recall the title of. I apologize. And there was some really great advice in there. And one of the pieces of advice is that as your musical develops and gets stronger, the music tends to eat the book. And I think that that's true because when the first versions of this show had a lot more scenes that were funny. And as we developed the story, it got stronger as the most important storytelling beats got eaten by music, meaning they got told through music instead.
Mm-hmm.
God Only Knows, the song in the show that Jason Alexander as God sings, was originally a scene, essentially a sketch where, you know, Ron gets to heaven and is asking these questions. God, why did you let all these terrible things happen? Oh, yes, God only knows. And he goes, what? You can't say that. And it was funny as a sketch, but it was incredible. It was the last song we wrote that ended up on the record. It became elevated and clearer as a song because when you turn dialogue or a funny idea into a song, it very quickly becomes clear if it has legs.
Mm-hmm.
Because poetry has to be dense and lyrics have to be dense. There isn't a lot of room for just like wandering around the idea. It has to be the idea on every line. And so I feel like eventually what we came to realize is really the only things that should be spoken are things that like don't have the emotional weight to be sung.
Right.
And so if your show's really working, most of the moments have emotional weight.
And to speak, oh wow, love that. And to speak about God Only Knows, it makes it even funnier because there's like a driving nature to the music.
Yes.
Of like the music's continuing whether you like it or not. So you're gonna try to interject. You're like, hey, you can't say that. Too late. We're on to the next verse.
Yes. One of the really fun things about any kind of musical comedy, yes, is like the train is on tracks. So you can be the voice of reason and you're always going to get interrupted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was really fun to have moments in our show where we played with music as a form, like having the Greek chorus from
When Everyone Has a Gun
as a voice of reason between phrases for Ron, or having using a fade out in one song as a comedic device.
Mm-hmm.
So like one character is still there, even though the song is fading
I think
away.
God Only Knows.
That's right.
God Only Knows. It's
Yeah.
like, are you fading out right now?
Yeah, exactly.
You were having a conversation.
Exactly.
And also that I love the Greek chorus in When Everyone Has a Gun. How they're like, well, we can't actually change anything about this because the song's going.
Yes.
So we're just gonna choose not to be part of this song
we're leaving.
anymore.
We're gonna leave.
So funny.
Thanks.
Okay, so when you're going on vacation now
I'm going to shortly. Yeah.
because you have spent, as you were saying, so much time building this, and there is no casting director. There is no like you and Hal and Micah, and I'm sure you also had other support, but
Yes.
you all put this together. And so the exhausting nature of that, it makes me think about, you know, it's not the same, but when Lin-Manuel Miranda finished In the Heights and then went to Mexico to take a break, he took with him a book Hamilton by Walter Isaacson.
Yes.
The biography. And that was where it was inspired for Hamilton. And then 6 years later, Hamilton came out.
Wow. So be careful what book I take.
What I'm saying
to Cancun.
is whatever you're inputting while you're in Cancun, just make sure it's something you actually are interested in.
Oh no, I'm gonna make a musical about Cancun.
You're gonna make a musical about margaritas on the beach.
Yeah. The show's called Espresso Martini.
Hold on. Jimmy Buffett inspired music.
Yeah, Jimmy Buffett inspired music, and it's all about an uprising from the staff.
Ooh, honestly, not bad.
It's giving White Lotus.
It is.
Yeah.
So don't do that.
No.
Actually take a break.
Yeah, I think I'll try. I have, there's some like ideas floating around in the ether, but nothing I'm ready to like talk about.
Yeah, sure. No,
Yeah.
don't keep those to yourself.
Exactly. Keep that crap to yourself.
Because then, have you ever heard that thing? Also, this is not going to be you because you also like that kind of creative that I spend so much time with one thing that now I need to like put it aside and like I get tired of things.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, I've put everything I can into that. I no longer want to keep repeating that or keep playing that note.
Yes.
What's next?
Yeah. I think that's true. I also think Micah and I have learned that the development process for large works is so long, especially if you're independent,
Right.
that you have to get comfortable with the idea that you might set something down and pick it back up.
Mm-hmm.
And when we say we've written this project for 10 years, we don't mean every day. We mean we worked on it for a month and then set it down for 6 months. And then we'd pick it up again for 2 months and then set it down for 3 months. And so, probably actual boots on the ground time was more like 2 years total,
Yeah.
But it's spread out, and that spread out time means when you come back to it, you have fresh eyes. You have to set stuff down.
I hope, by the way, that there is a stage production of this at some point.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun.
I dream of that. I want that. I would like you still to play Wolf.
In every
No matter
every
what.
regional production, it's in my rider.
If like no matter who,
High school
where,
productions.
they have to wait to do that next production because we're still finishing Wolf in Pennsylvania.
Sorry. Yeah, and I'm doing a one-man Wolf show. It's called Wolf! !
I want that show. Okay.
A Stoner's Guide to Love and Life.
Well, actually, something that's completely brand new. Before we started, when I first heard about this project, I of course went and followed you on Instagram to see what was going on. You put out so much funny stuff on Instagram. I love the musical
Theater Writers Ruin.
Yes.
Yes.
That is so good. And I also just love that it has also a visual language to it where it's just that zoom in push on both you. It feels insane.
Yes.
Where did you, okay. One, I was want to talk about, I have such a weird relationship with social media.
Yes.
Where one, it's breaking my brain at all times because it's shortening my attention span. I'm, losing time in my day. But then also I'm feeling myself gain community. I'm learning about things I didn't know about. And it also feels like a lot of your own life has a social media bent to it. How have you interacted with social media as you've been a creator?
It definitely is a double-edged sword. The positives are massive and so are the negatives. On the negative side, yeah, it eats up my day. If I'm not really, really conscious with it, it can quickly lead me to negative thoughts. I can tell that it prolongs negative feelings. And when I'm experiencing rumination or thought cycles that aren't healthy for me, it will continue those thought cycles, feeding me exactly the things that I've already processed, but somebody else now is kind of processing on my behalf in front of me. On the positive side, we found half of our cast through social media. I was ringing a bell of writing these political musical songs, responding to the news of the day or to what I was experiencing. And that helped me connect with many of the actors that are in our cast now. Kamiko Glenn followed me after seeing a video like that, as did Yvette Nicole Brown, Paul Walter Hauser. And that was an opportunity in that moment to say to them, these brilliant actors who I already wanted to be involved and just didn't have a direct line to, hey, I have this musical. I would love to share it with you and see if you might get involved. And to their credit, every one of them in their DMs was like, yeah, send it over. Sometimes directly, sometimes through reps or what have you.
When you say ringing the bell, you mean putting yourself out there so much?
When I said ringing the bell, it's specifically I have this musical comedy about politics.
Right.
Pretty specific. Specifically through a progressive lens, but also a humanistic lens, and trying to complicate and not have an overly simplistic bent or a dunk on conservatives' ideology to the way I'm writing. I'm ringing that bell through my music and sharing that online. So then the exact actors who would be the best fit for this
Yeah.
project on their own social media usage are seeing this because they're interested in the same things. So that sort of algorithmic sorting
Wow.
led us to our cast. And that's powerful. That's very powerful.
Wild.
Yeah.
You kind of blew my mind with that. And because this was all before that, you had More Guns, a musical comedy that you were doing at Second City.
That's right.
And that was like a stage production that ran for 18 months in LA and then also up in San Francisco. You played it there before the pandemic just went no more.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the pandemic locked us down, and it makes sense that Mike and I, when everything is becoming remote and becoming theater shows are doing pro shots and all these things, we were like, how can we share this in this new kind of media landscape, which is just the first inkling of when we started to be like, what if it was a concept album?
Yeah.
And obviously the world since opened up, but we still held on to the idea because we could recognize that if the concept album's really great, the whole story can be told through the music because we'd been developing it for so long that the music had eaten the book. And so there wasn't actually, there's dialogue inside of songs that has a totally different flavor than dialogue on its own.
Right.
And so I think at the end of the day, there's 21 songs and 15 dialogue tracks in the show. And most of the dialogue tracks are like 15 to 45 seconds. They're just
like connecting us to the next emotional beat.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They're just the dialogue tracks, they have to be well written, they have to be reasonable and all this, but they're really
they have to be funny.
Yeah, and they have to be funny, but their primary sort of storytelling role is as a expositional guide to the next emotional beat. But I guess that's all dialogue.
I suppose so.
Yeah,
but
you have to think of it
so efficient.
Yeah, and you have to think of it that structurally when you're breaking it up into tracks.
And I think that's why I know it's a concept album. I keep calling it a cast recording just because
it's kind of both, but we cast recording almost implies to a listener that like this was a cast on stage.
Right.
Which it never was.
Right, but it still in my brain feels like it was.
Right.
Because in my brain, I'm listening to it and I'm just seeing them on stage doing this show. And I'm also figuring out, like, what does that gun look like? What does that megaphone look like?
Yeah.
How are we transitioning from the family room to the new location? Like, I'm seeing all of those things happen.
I think that's the fun of this project is like you're a co-creator of this experience. You're a creative as well. We did all the work we could do. The last director, the visual director, the composition of the stage management, like all the visuals are constructed by you.
Right. You are a scenic designer. You are a costume designer.
Yeah. It can be a movie in your head. It can be a play in your head. It can be an animated film in your head. It can be whatever you want it to be. Yeah, you just have to press play.
And the last thing I want to say from before that you were talking about as we close out now, yeah, spoiler, we did an hour warm-up, which this is just like an improv thing. When you're doing improv, you want to do an hour warm-up so that you're really loose, especially with somebody new. It was a way that I really got to know you, Philip.
Yeah, I was very excited to discover the cameras weren't rolling.
It was super cool. You were super cool about it. I was kind of freaking out. I'm kind of cool now because I feel like we've got really great stuff. And I feel like we did kind of the writing process that you do, which we tightened everything up.
Yeah.
We went through and we're like, we don't need that.
We did the edit for you.
There are so many songs on the cutting room floor of this podcast that we did not bring back to this video portion that's going to now be the whole podcast because I think we found the real core of it. But the last thing that I really wanted to bring up that you had said in the previous one was how Kimiko really like took a swing. Like,
yes.
Was like to be the first one to sign on to the project.
Absolutely, yeah. To give Kimiko Glenn her flowers. Firstly, she's incredible on this project. She's such a vocal powerhouse. She's such a great performer. And she has an iconic voice that can read as much younger. Which was so incredible. I mean, isn't it the dream of a director, like to work with someone who can, read as the age that you want, but has the maturity, experience, and vocal talent of a seasoned performer. And I connected with her because she followed me from my music on social media. And I was already thinking, like, Mike and I were having the first conversations about who could play Jenna. And it was like, I don't know, someone like Kimiko Glenn, who's, this incredible vocal talent, but can sound like she's 15. And so she followed me from my music. And so it was a real kismet situation where I reached out to her and said, hey, do you want to come over and hear the show? Because we didn't even have any demos yet. And so she came over. Mike and I played her the whole show. We got to chat a little bit. And, we just said like, hey, we think you'd make a great Jenna. Do you want to do this project? Here's what we think. Here's what we are making. Here's our timeline. And to her credit, no one else was attached. She took that leap of faith in believing in the material, and sort of was the first person to sign on, which can be a really big deal when you're first putting together a marketable set of actors, because actors generally don't want to be no one wants to feel like they're the one taking on all the risk.
Yes.
Which is totally reasonable. And the more other actors are signed on, the more legitimate, quote unquote, the project becomes. And so you're sort of rolling a snowball that's gathering snow, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And so, yeah, huge thanks to Kamiko for taking a swing on it before it had, all this, before I could list off, Anthony Rapp, Kamiko Glenn, Chris Sullivan, Paul Walter Hauser, Richard like each of these people in a way took a leap of faith. It's an indie project, not backed by a studio. And I hope that people, when they hear it, will understand like how great their vocal performances are.
Yes.
And how, we just got so lucky. Sometimes an actor is so well known because they are incredibly good at what they do.
Yeah.
And I think that was the case with all of our sort of more well-known talent. We also had an incredible ensemble of actors and singers and vocalists who have yet to, reach those kind of heights of celebrity, who are all incredible in the ensemble and playing featured roles throughout. So yeah, our whole cast. Go listen to it and you'll hear why I feel this
everyone
way.
nailed it, and Chris Sullivan and Kamiko Glenn did such an incredible job of like having that emotional core that we're following throughout the story. And I, while there's not a part of me that really relates to Chris Sullivan's politics, I did relate to him as a man.
Yes.
Whereas this is a dad just like trying to figure it out and dealing with his own trauma and trying to avoid it, and a daughter who's like trying to actually face it. And that's also like the generational difference of how we deal with trauma, as what it feels like, boomer Gen Xers versus more millennial Gen Zers, of just like, hey guys, can we talk about it? And they're like, no, we're fine.
Yeah.
And so like all those aspects of it, like I got, and they carried that story so well throughout.
I 100% agree. They were the emotional core of the story. I spent a year with their voices, editing and producing and working with Hal and giving notes. And I never got tired of their voices.
No.
I never got, because they just delivered performances. They're like actors, and they delivered performances that were so funny, but also so heartfelt. They rode the tone that is a thin wire to balance on for the show.
Yeah.
Really beautifully. And they're both such talents that I think they're both stars.
Now, I've quite literally taken up way too much of your time, but the last thing from warm-up that I think would be really good here in the actual show is talking about Hal Rosenfeld and how he, like you were talking, all of you, because you and Micah and Hal are all such incredible musical, I'll call you prodigies, in the different styles. There's so many different styles within this musical. Like it has so many different signatures,
yes,
each of the songs. And how is that working together? I mean, it was just so cool. So I just want to know, like, why is it so cool?
I think a lot of the reason the record feels really cool and contemporary and modern is because of our producer, Hal Rosenfeld. He has experience in the production world, the pop world, as a band leader, as a percussionist drummer, and as a composer for film and TV. And I think he brought all of those skills to bear in the project. You can hear his orchestral background in certain moments. You can hear his pop background in other moments. And he worked with a set of co-producers as well, who you can see in the liner notes of the show, who were all terrific. And collectively, they all just come from a very different world than the Broadway world. And so I think part of the reason that the show sounds different is because the people involved don't have as much of a framework for a traditional sound. And sometimes that can be something to be molded and shaped. And other times it can lead to outcomes that are so exciting and thrilling because, it's sort of like somebody who doesn't know that it's not allowed to be this good and this cool.
Yeah, it's unlike any other musical.
I think that's right.
In that way. And I think that's one of the gifts of doing something indie.
Yeah.
You do something outside of the studio system. It allows you to find new things that maybe would have gotten noted away within a different format.
And I think a lot of it, to not discredit the incredible producers and arrangers from the Broadway world, it also had to do with just that Hal had an open sandbox that didn't have to fit in a Broadway orchestra pit. So every song could be its own sonic universe, where he could, for a Western tune, include instrumentation that just simply could not make it into a Broadway pit.
Well, sure, this is the same thing that happens with a writer who's been writing for too long, and they're now writing toward a budget rather than writing toward their imagination.
Exactly, and Hal has a huge imagination, is a wonderful, brilliant executive music producer, and yeah, I hope this project for him also is sort of a calling card for all the different musical styles he can work in and play. And he was a great fit for this project because he is so flexible and dynamic.
What I loved about this show too is like it just felt like it's not just a singular focus of like Republicans are bad and they are all wrong. It is like, hey, some of these ideas people have are bad, but also liberals, you're cringy AF. Like there's certain takes people have, like nobody's safe here.
Yeah, I think when people hear the title, Good Guy with a Gun, and they hear that it's a musical written by what they should probably assume are like two liberals living in a blue dot city, I imagine the instinct people will have is that the show is sort of a shallow swipe at Republicans in a sort of shallow clapback culture where it seems like we're often just responding to the news of the day and being like, oh no, they didn't. Like, well, did you know, Mr. President? That's illegal. Like,
you can take your thoughts and prayers and shove them.
Yeah, that is not what the show is. The show, I think, is, yes, it is pointing out that there are ridiculous and unreasonable parts of the way that liberals can behave as sanctimonious and ostracizing and needlessly punishing to someone who doesn't understand things at the same speed that they do, unwilling to build a broad tent or meet people on the areas they can agree on instead of having endless moral purity tests. And it also takes aim at Republicans, and it doesn't claim that both sides are the same or that both groups are equally wrong or have done equally bad things. The show, in fact, doesn't really talk about any of that because the show is not interested in figuring out who is a bad person.
Right.
That's why the show is called Good Guy with a Gun, because good guy, the moral purity question, is right in the title. And the show is about trying to deconstruct a little bit of our obsession with being good or right, and maybe looking a little bit more at how we do good and less about how we sort of appear good. And I think that is a problem that both sides could hold and take a little bit of responsibility for.
To get cringy for a moment, it reminds me of like Brene Brown talking about the difference between shame and guilt.
Yeah.
Like shame is I am bad, where guilt is I did a bad thing. And it's a lot harder to come back from either calling somebody bad or feeling that you are bad, where it is easier to recover from saying, hey, that thing you did was bad.
Yeah.
Or that thing I did was bad. And also the difference of like one of the things I think that it is not really fully talked about in the musical, but you can feel it, is that like sometimes even like the liberal mindset is someone can have a come to Jesus moment and realize the ills of their background, and then they'll get shamed for, well, you should have figured it out earlier. It was like, well, look where we all now because of her emails. They're still stuck in that rather than accepting that, like, well, thank you for finally getting it.
Yeah. It can be something I've been sitting with a lot recently, both with this show, with the current political moment, with how I want to try and heal and move forward, if there even is a possibility of healing. And it's so beyond the scope of the show, and it's not something I have an answer to, but I do find myself thinking a lot about how you have to treat people sometimes better than they deserve.
Right.
Because and that's not to say you shouldn't have personal boundaries, but the show is about how do you heal a relationship that has a deep ideological divide. And well, you certainly can't start by believing the other person is a monster and that they're unredeemable. So we want to make everybody laugh. We want to make everyone have a good time. We think right after a big laugh is a great moment for a conversation to start. Everyone's boundaries go down and they unclench a little bit when they're laughing. And I hope that people, take the show in the spirit that we wrote it and created it in, which is, we hope, a generous spirit and one that is trying to be understanding and open to all. That doesn't mean we leave room for fascism. That doesn't mean we, even at the end of the show, in the finale, we make sure to clarify that, like, you don't have to tolerate intolerance. We don't have to tolerate concentration camps. We don't have to tolerate any number of intolerable things in the name of getting along. But the show's not about being polite or trying to just be nice to other people.
Yeah.
But it is about something deeper than niceness, which is understanding and love, which are much more important. Sometimes loving someone doesn't always mean being nice. Sometimes it means being honest, being open, being truthful, and trying to meet them where they're at.
Wow. I love everything you said. I absolutely love this musical.
Thank you so much.
No joke. I'm on my third listen of it, and I'm going to listen to it so many times. I'm going to tell everyone I know to listen to it. I think all of you should listen to it. Like, it is just hilarious, and you leave it. I think, like, as I said before, like, I do have a lot of conservatives in my family, and I just feel like there's a chance.
Yeah.
We can find middle ground. We can get through this.
Wow. Well, that's huge. I'm so glad to hear that. That makes me really happy.
I actually want to send this musical to, like, that's my plan, is to send this to them.
Yeah. And then eventually you'll get to Jellicle Ball.
Yeah, but let's start
with Good Guy with a Gun, and then,
this is a first step.
Then you can hit him with Ragtime.
While Good Guy with a Gun, the concept album, is not necessarily a stepping stone to its stage production. It is my stepping stone to getting to my parents listening to the whole...
Yeah, to listening to Kinky Boots.
That's... Finally.
Yes.
Who is it that you is, like, your dream person to listen to this concept album? Like, who is, like, the dream audience?
I grew up in South Florida, and Micah grew up in Chicago. And so when we were thinking about creating the project, we were also thinking about how we experienced some of our first Broadway experiences, because Broadway is a place, but it's also a culture. And our first cultural experience with Broadway was through cast albums. And so when I think about our ideal audience member, it's sort of like a high school theater nerd.
Yes.
I just think, I'm sure I hope there will be so many people that love this show. I know that no one will love it the way a 16-year-old theater girl in Ohio will love this show, because I know that when I was in high school, the girls who came in and sang Taylor the Latte Boy or some other, like, deep cut Pasek and Paul new musical title of show thing, they were about this. They cared about it. They loved it. And so when I thought about, as we were making this project, who this show can, like, belong to, or who will rep it, or who will believe in it, I know there are so many people out there who will come to it from their own place, but I do think there's no one quite like high school theater kids.
Yeah.
In terms of, they have the time and energy and spirit to love it. And kind of, like, they're also, like, looking for their personality. And I say this as a kid who was like that. So, I certainly don't want them to make this their whole personality. But I do think when I think about our dream audience, it's someone like that, with the understanding that some of the material is very adult, and I wouldn't really recommend the show to anyone under 16.
I mean, they're doing such adult musicals in high school all the time, which sometimes blows my mind.
I know.
Even, like, West Side Story, there are scenes in West Side Story that I'm like, we're doing this in a high school?
Yeah.
When Anita goes and meets up with the Jets to try to, like, calm things down, and there's a full-on assault.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Cut this scene from the high school version.
No.
You're right.
No, it's perfect.
I was thinking, though, while I was listening to it, and I think this is what's going to happen. Those high schoolers are going to listen to this, and there's going to be so many auditions for like college programs that are going to be from Good Guy with a Gun.
When Kamiko recently she posted a story being like, she posted Simple and Easy, which is like her ballad near the end of the show. Or not even about, it's like a soaring like, simple and easy. It's almost like a pop tune. She was like, new 16-bar cut for musical theater girlies just dropped. And when she said that, I was like, oh, that is so fun to think about. Like, yeah, someone like auditioning for their college program with like a tune from this show. That'd be so cool.
And they're going to do it like as scene work in their college classes. They're going to be doing stuff between like Wolf and her have a song.
Yeah, Liberal Love.
Yeah, they're going to be doing Liberal Love in class together. They need to clean that up. And I cannot wait for that. I cannot wait for clips of that to make it to TikTok and circle back around to you while you're in Cancun.
That would be the ultimate thing to see while I'm finally taking a well-deserved vacation.
Yeah, you really do. Honestly, okay, so everyone should go and listen to this album. It's available everywhere. You were naming some places before. I know about Spotify and Apple Music.
Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Angami, Cubas, YouTube Music, Amazon Music.
Listen to, please, just start it. Once you start it, you won't be able to stop. I guarantee it. And Philip, where should they follow the musical to hear more about it? Where should they follow you to learn about you?
Yeah, you can follow along with Good Guy with a Gun at Good Guy Musical on Instagram. You can also follow along with our individual journeys at Philip Labus, at Micah, M-I-C-A-H, OK Good, Micah OK Good, and Hal Rosenfeld at Hal Rosenfeld. We have so loved and appreciated the response to the show thus far. It's been like a really great opening weekend, basically. And I loved being on the pod with you.
It was so wonderful to have you here. I've had you now for an hour and 52 minutes sitting here talking. You only get to get 52 minutes of it. If you want the other hour, ask for it. We'll see. Maybe I'll give it to you. I don't know. Some repeats, some new stuff. Some stuff about what it was really like to have a gun in your face on a train and to busk on the streets of the 3rd Street Promenade.
Yeah.
And how do you get a permit for it? Find out in just the audio version.
It's so funny.
It's now becoming funny for me. Before, I wanted to die. Anyway, thank you so much for listening all the way to the end. Make sure that you do go listen to Good Guy with a Gun. It's available everywhere. And as always, let me know what shows you'd like me to see, what guests you want me to have on, segments you want to be a part of this show, and forever be supporting local theater. Thank you all so much. Thank you again very much. I wish it had happened with a friend, but instead it happened with a new person in my life. So kudos to us
Quick
for surviving
icebreaker.
it. Yeah, real big. Also, like someone who just like produced the shit out of something to come in and be like, wow, cool studio. And I'm like, oh, none of this matters. This lighting's just for us. No one will ever see it. Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.
We got big theater kid energy. Look out, we project, we sing out, Louise. Never market, always go full out. John Patrick Shanley never had a doubt. Our voices are warm, fan kicks are high. We've got perfect form. We say thank you, 5. Grab your prop, charge all the glow tape. Curtains going up. 5, 6, 7, 8. We got big theater kids.